Today, we are continuing our series on Connect the Dots. And connecting the dots, the big idea that I want you guys to see is that we're putting facts and ideas together in order to see the whole picture with greater understanding. In the first week, Pastor Scott talked about what it means to know that love connects and fear divides. We were made for connection with God and others. And when we have more love in our lives, fear diminishes. Love is more powerful than fear. Last week, we heard from Dr. Rick Marks the idea of family, that we were created for family, that God gives us family outside of family, in the church, in community, amongst friends, but ultimately God puts the lonely in family. We were made for connection, and that helps build the bigger picture. This week, I want you to see that there's something that we do with this family. It's one thing to just be in a family, but there are things that you do together as a family. You think about the families that you've been in, I guarantee you, you don't just sit there. My parents would always say, are you just going to sit on your thumbs all day, do nothing? We don't just sit on our thumbs as families. We do things together. We go together. We grow together. We are together. I want you guys to see that today we are not just attending church, but that we are the church. That a healthy body works together and grows together. And that when you think of the idea of serving, and I guarantee when you think of serving, the thought that might come into your head is, just go sign up for kids ministry, go hold a baby for a little bit, go make a pot of coffee. I mean, that's nice, but there's more to the picture. And what I want to paint today is that serving in the church is not for the sake of, that we don't just volunteer, but we function as a body does with our unique spiritual gifts, our talents, our expertise, and our passions. There's a big picture that comes when it comes to the idea of serving and being a part of the church. So why is there a bus on the stage? It's not just for nostalgia, although it brings nostalgia. To set the frame, I want you to understand that there's a lot of different images when it comes to what the church looks like. Paul shows us that the church is like a body. If a body functioned by itself, it wouldn't make sense. If you were only a hand, you wouldn't be a body. If you're only an eye, you wouldn't be a body. There's many different parts that create the body. And that's what makes it unique, and that's what makes it so special. Paul says that we are also God's temple. We are God's building. We are a pillar of support, so that we are a priesthood. These images show that there are many intricate parts that all build a more beautiful picture when there are different parts glued together in a way where they function to make a more beautiful picture. Jesus also gives us a couple examples, saying that we are like salt and we are like light. Salt that loses its saltiness, as he says. It's kind of a messy bit of words, but it's beautiful the way that he says it. Salt that loses its saltiness is useless. Light that does not act as light is useless. But salt that is worth its salt keeps things fresh. And in the past, it used to be a currency. Salt that was still useful was valuable. Light that is used in darkness draws people to it. This is an image of the church. A flock of sheep. Pastor Scott used this a couple weeks ago. When you have a group of animals together, it is much safer than by yourself. It's like branches in John 15. When you are connected together rather than separated, you thrive and you grow. And lastly, we are adopted into God's family. We are God's children. These images of the church show that we are together and we are growing. But the problem, I heard a pastor this week talk about this idea of the church being kind of like a cruise liner or a cruise. The yesterday church used to be a cruise liner and acted like a vehicle in a once upon a time, where you would go from point A to point B. you would be on a very clear mission. We would be reaching people who don't know about Jesus. But instead, today, church a lot of the time ends up like a cruise. You go in a big circle with lots of attractions, lots of cool stuff, simulated swimming while you're on a body of water. That sounds great. I've never been on a cruise, but I heard there's just so much to do. But what happens is we end up viewing the church as a destination, as if church is the only place that you're supposed to be. What I want you to see is that church is supposed to be like a vehicle. We're not supposed to treat church like a destination. We're supposed to see that this is a group of people that gather together as a family and go out to continue growing in our communities, to continue going in our communities to show the watching world who God is, what he is doing in your life, and serving people around us in a way where it becomes a much more beautiful picture of God's kingdom. We are bringing God's kingdom here. So, why is there a bus? When I think of a bus, we get on and off, and I guarantee you when I got on the bus as a kid, I did not go to the bus just to go on the bus. The bus was not fun. But I got to know the people. I want you to see that church is like a bus, but the bus is fun. I want you to see that this bus is supposed to be a place where we all get on for just a short time on Sundays and go out into our weeks, into our workplaces, amongst our family, amongst our friends, with a new vision to show people that there is hope, there is life, and there is something more than just ourselves. So I guess the big picture then is, how do you do it? I'm going to teach you a password. Don't use this for your phones, because I'll know. I will try not, well, I won't, anyways. We want to develop a 1, 2, 2, 3, 4 password for life. 1 journey, 2 rules, 2 options, 3 gifts, and 4 butts to get off of. Feel free to laugh if you'd like. The goal with developing this kind of mentality is that we're trying to move from ourselves and only focusing on the destination, even if it's that we're not focused on the church portion just yet. If we're only focused on just what we do in life, that there's more to just what we do. That there's a bigger picture of where we're going. As we gather together as a church, this is great where we can see that we are gathered together under a united vision. But even if you're not at that point yet, think of what you do in your day-to-day. Is that enough for you? Where are you going? This is the kind of bus that I want to invite you on. So, I'd like to show you this picture through Matthew 25, 14 through 30, which is the parable of the talents. Cool story. I've heard this so many times. And just to give you a vision, each talent that you see is kind of like $1 million. I want you to just picture that. He says 5 talents, picture $5 million. It says this: "For it is like a man going on a journey, who summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, or $5 million, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. Then he went on a journey. The one who had received 5 talents went off right away and put his money to work and gained 5 more. $10 million, that's a lot of money." What it would literally say is that 1 talent is worth 6,000 days worth of work, just to give you a big picture there too. In the same way, the one who gained 2 more. But the one who received 1 talent went on and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money in it. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled his accounts with them. And the one who received the 5 talents came and brought 5 more, saying, "Sir, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more." I'm sorry, I need to be scrolling too. Bear with me. His master answered, "Well done, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." The one with 2 talents also came and said, 'Sir, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have gained 2 more.' The master answered, 'Well done, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.'" To pause the story just for a moment. God gives us so many different responsibilities in life. Picture what you have done up to this point. What is your job? What are your hobbies? Who are the people that you engage with? You have many different spheres of influence. These are the responsibilities that you've been given. The passions you are given matter. They're not just trivial things. I loved hearing what Cindy was saying. We were talking about Cindy's bracelets earlier. Like, it's easy to say, man, I'm just making bracelets. But think of how she's used that in a beautiful way to reach so many different people. I'm encouraged by that. So, like, that's amazing. That's a wonderful outreach. But you don't think of how you can use that creatively. These 2 first examples of people who had the 5 talents and the 2 talents, they used their money creatively and doubled it. They made their life and their responsibilities matter. We get to choose how we use our time, our talents, and our treasures creatively, or we lose them fatally. If we model our lives by working and investing in what God has given us, we live life fully. But then we get to the other fellow. Then the one who received 1 talent came and said, "Sir, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting what you didn't sow and gathering what you didn't scatter. You didn't scatter the seeds. So I was afraid, and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours." But his master answered, "Evil and lazy slave. So you knew that I did harvest what I didn't sow and gather what I didn't scatter." This is likely sarcasm as well. This isn't likely the master saying, of course I'm like this. He said, "If you knew this, you should have done something with it. Then you should have deposited my money with the bankers, and on my return, I would have received my money back with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10. For the one who has will be given more, and he will have more than enough. But the one who does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. And throw that worthless slave into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Spooky. But let me paint this picture for you. The last servant chose to hide away his money and what he was given. He hid away his responsibilities. His words to his master is like going to your boss. Can you picture your boss in your head? Or even if it's your wife or husband or just somebody really important, I want you to picture this. That's like saying, "Listen, I know you were off doing your thing and I was doing my thing, and you're pretty difficult to work with. I don't like working with you, and I'm kind of afraid of you. I didn't know what to do with this, and, I didn't know if it was worth my time, so, you can have it back. Here you go." How's that go for you? Anybody still have a job? Not likely. Even if you have all the confidence in the world saying that, nobody's getting rewarded like that. If I were to come up here, and if I pulled out my phone and spent the entire time just scrolling and playing games on my phone, anybody liking that sermon? No. If you're watching football season's coming up, man. If everybody only spends time huddling but not playing, is that a good game to watch? I want you to see the value in doing something and doing something creatively. When you think of a football game, the reason why you huddle is so that you can go and creatively make a touchdown. You want to plan, you want to do something beautiful, you want to do something extraordinary. But with the servant, why he's called an evil and lazy servant is because he did nothing. I heard this example as well. I'm full of examples right now, but this is a cool example. There was a man, in the example, there was a man who came towards an elevator and realized when he opened the elevator, there was nothing there. The cage was empty. And of course, he didn't step in, logically. You wouldn't step into an empty elevator. You'd plummet. Not so good. But he sees a blind man behind him. And the blind man doesn't realize the elevator's empty. But he also sees that his shoes are untied. And he stops the man to tie his shoes, but still lets the man carry on his way. It's not useful. But what this picture is painting right here of this evil servant is he didn't even bother to tie his shoes. It'd be like letting him carry on his way. Of course, it's still useless service because something bad still happened. But what we could see is when we are doing something, when we are doing anything with what God has given us, we have an opportunity to do great things for the glory of God and for loving people around us. To keep painting this picture, we have one journey. I love this game. It's called Skyrim, if you've ever heard of it. It's been a big game out for many years. They've not made another installation past this game. But even just seeing this scene, mountains all over the place, there's forests all over the place, and there's just this big, epic journey. I love the music because it's dynamic. And what's amazing about this game is it's one of the games that never ends. If you do more than just what the main quest is. You can blitz through the game. There's one main quest. You could blitz through it and be done with the game and never pick it up again. There are also sub-main quests where you can do just a little bit more. That's great. You can jump onto opportunities inside of this game and also do the side quests like finding the lost cat. Or baking a sweet roll for somebody. Or just saying hi to a long-lost relative visiting another town. These are different ways inside of the game where it keeps you engaged and lets you get to know the community inside of the game. You can also explore and play creatively, but there are also ways to play where you do nothing. You quit or never even play in the first place. This is not an encouragement to go off and play Skyrim. That's your choice. But what I want you to see is the many different ways to play this game, the limitless different opportunities, show that we have different choices that we make through our days. We can choose to invest only in ourselves and do the bare minimum. Or we can invest in many different ways and play through this life creatively. To go on this grand adventure, this grand journey, we get to choose what we do with it. Each day, at the end of the day, we have to decide how best to use our time and the opportunities given to us. And through that lens, there are two rules. If we come to understand that Jesus is Lord in our life, Jesus who came to this earth, God who came to this earth, lived a human life, lived a perfect life, died an unjust death, paying for our sins, every thought, every word, every action that we have committed against God. Every sin was paid for. When we understand that, and that when he died with that and rose again 3 days later, defeating sin and death, he gives us these two rules. The great commandment to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That already sounds like more than two rules. But inside of that, he says, these two are like each other. That the love goes beyond just yourself, but we are to love as we already do ourselves. We are to love our God and to love those around us. And the second rule is this, the Great Commission. To abide in Jesus, who has all authority, to go and make disciples, to teach them and to follow and obey all that Jesus commanded, and to know that he is with us. These two, the Great Commandment and the Great Commission, radically shape what a Christian is. But the problem is this. Navel gazing. If any of you can do that, I commend you. I do not have a neck that is capable of such things. But I have actually heard of this movement where people will actually take their bodies and just watch their belly buttons. Because it's supposed to self-center you and make you feel aligned with yourself. Sounds so good. But here's the thing. We want a lot of things that aren't bad in this life. But we typically stop at just the me part, such as we focus on my salvation, my church, my worship style, my devotionals, my success, my dreams, my goals, my futures, my regrets. You pick your my. You even think my time, my money, my dreams, whatever it is. The buck stops at the myself and my self-help. You're only focusing on the problem is that we end up only focusing on ourselves. I do it too. And I have to get out of that kind of mentality, because what happens is the quest in life only becomes about what we can do for ourselves. There was a research study that came out not too long ago where churches were surveyed, and 84% of respondents said that churches asked those that attended to serve in some way, shape, or form. Any guesses how many people actually served? If out of 100%, how many do you think served? 10. Good idea. It's 30%, which is great. But here's the thing. That's not just in the church. That's in and outside of the church. Because we're so focused on the good things that we're doing in life that are only about us. So we have two options. We have to choose to do something. But then what do? I like to think through this verse. Ephesians 2, 8 through 10 says this. For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God. It is not from works, so that no one can boast. For we are his creative work, having been created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand so we can do them. What this is saying is that, the goal isn't just, hey, go serve in the church somewhere. Or, hey, go find something to do in your community. That in and of itself is not the point. The point is to know that you are part of something. You are part of the church. You are part of your community. If you were to think of it like a body, I thought of this image where, if you were trying to grab your phone that was on the table, and your hand didn't agree with your arm, are you grabbing that phone? If the arm was jealous of the hand and said, I can't grab it, it doesn't make sense. Each one of us is unique and special in some way, shape, or form. You have a role to play within your community. You have a role to play within the church. No matter where you are in life, how old or how young you are, you have experience, you have passion, you have expertise that is valuable. What you do matters. You are a special part of the body. So you have two options. You can live adventurously or fizzle out. Any of you see Willy Wonka before? I love that movie. The old movie's great. But I've always been confused by the beginning of the movie with the grandparents in the bed. Makes no sense. Why are they there? He says he's been there for 20 years, and yet he jumps up and dances. How? Common practice back then, I was reading from the author. I feel like I never can pronounce his name right. Bear with me. Common practice was for grandparents to remain bedridden in their children's homes. So for 40 or 50 years, he was in bed after the war. And in the book, it says that he vowed to stay in that bed. But Grandpa Joe goes from immobile to dancing and adventuring. And I've seen online people say, man, I hate Grandpa Joe. He was using his children. He was using Charlie. And, fine, whatever. Maybe he was secretly getting up and doing stuff because he was dancing afterward. That's great. But here's the beautiful thing about this. He got up. Creativity comes with opportunity. He used his gifts, his time, his talents, his treasure. He chose to use it rather than lose that opportunity. Friends, we have time. We get to choose what we do with each day and each opportunity. We get to choose what we use with our talent. We can develop expertise and passions throughout life. As we grow with Jesus, we develop spiritual gifts, whether it's teaching and preaching and praying and helping and administering. Whatever it is, you are able to use something beautifully for the church, for people around you, to show the beautiful God that we serve. We have treasures, our possessions, our money, and things that we hold dear in our hearts can either be used or fade to nothing. Let me tell you, I love to cook for people. I love to see the smile on people's faces when I cook. And that's a little treasure that I can give somebody else. I can let that food over-ripen and rot. It's not useful. But if I could see somebody light up, it's great. There are so many different ways that we can use our time and our talents. We do not want to squander our time by filling it with just distractions and excuses. We can choose to use our time effectively and love others well. We can choose to allow our expertises to not be buried, like the servant did with his one talent, but we can maximize on that. How? Can you use what you do well for the sake of loving others? How can you do it? How can you use what you do on a daily basis to love somebody else? To make it more than just about yourself, to build a legacy. I challenge you to think about that. To understand, just move the premise in your head that what I do is not useless. No matter how small it is, what you have is special. Remember that it is God's gift to you. Here's 4 butts to get off of. I hope you don't have 4 butts. These are roadblocks that we may struggle with. James Emery White is a very influential pastor to me and Pastor Scott. We have learned a lot from him. But one of his sermons, I would encourage you to look up these sermons too. They're great. But he shows that there are 4 buts that stop us from doing anything, that make us kind of like that last servant with only 1 talent. We'll say, but I don't have the money or time. That's an easy cop-out. Because the thing is, when you say that, when you don't have money or time, it's a reprioritization issue in deciding what is most important in your life. Number 2 says, but I don't know what to do. That's where I encourage you to slow down and pray that what you have is special. No matter how small or how great, it is valuable because it is a gift from God. You get to choose how you use it. Number 3 says, but I'm all about me. Anybody say that? No, but we live it. We live it all the time. My time. My precious, precious time goes by so fast. When you say it's all about me, and when you live that out, then we just blitz through life and we miss all the opportunities we have to connect and build upon what we're given. Number 4, but what difference will it make? I guarantee you, you probably will not see a difference right away. But do any of you feel just that warm little bit inside of you when somebody connects with you? Whether you're going through something hurtful, or if you connect with somebody, even the following week, and just say, hey, how was this? I've had some health issues this past week, I could tell you. And I told a few people, and people followed up with me. Just asked me how I was doing, if I'm feeling just a little bit better. And I wasn't looking for pity. I wasn't looking for, I wasn't looking for anything, but just knowing that somebody cared meant the world to me. So I just want to encourage you with that. What you do makes a difference. This is a butt to get off of. Let's not do the conclusion yet. So, again, what's up with the bus? If we're a healthy church, we are functioning like a healthy body. We are a family that God has placed together. We grow together. We go together. We get on the bus together. We live on mission. And there's many ways we can do it. We could serve God with our families at church. There's tithes and offerings we can give. We can serve in your community, to be a part of the community. You pick what town you're in. Have you visited your village meetings? Do you know what's going on? You're invited. Do you know how your neighbors are doing? There's a step. We could visit each other. Literally, you don't have to just hang out on Sunday. You can meet together. We can grow together throughout the week as well, in impact groups and outside of impact groups. I've heard Eric and Darren go to metal concerts together, and that's awesome. You know, that's great. I encourage you, do stuff together, do life together. That's fun. But this is a way to grow together. There's so many different things that we can do, and I was very encouraged by Lori's example, and I'd like her to share just a short testimony, if she'd be willing to come up here. I would also like Ignite to come and join the bus as well.
Hi, good morning. Just excuse my bare feet as I walk up here. My shoes literally busted as I was walking to the door to church this morning, so sorry about that. Hi, my name's Lori Yakey, or Lori J, known here. I've been part of Wellsprings for 10 years, and my first time in the old building, you know, my mom was coming, who also attends here, and I didn't know God, I didn't know Jesus, I knew nothing, but I knew that my life was empty, and God brought me to Wellspring. And great, you know, first time, it was all good, went home. Second time I came back, and it was moving. Literally, the Holy Spirit jumped inside of me, and I went to my mom's, cried, whatever. But Brian Haybeth came up to me. This is the second time I was at church ever. He's like, hey, Lori, do you want to help out in Shine? I'm like, I don't even know what Shine is, but I know I can't really say no, and okay, sure. So right away, immediately, I started to be a helper in Shine, and it was honestly life-changing. I feel like by serving in Shine, you know, even though I was a helper, I wanted to know these stories, and I wanted to study, and I didn't want to let the kids down, and that led to me eventually being a teacher in Shine. My daughter, who's 13 now, but she joined Shine, and, you know, I wanted to be a role model for her. I knew how God had changed me in my life, and I wanted to break that generational cycle, and it started with me and my family, and now my daughter, you know, she's a believer. She's 13, life's a struggle, but we know we can rely on God. So I served in Shine for a total of 7 years. After about 2 years of coming to Wellspring, I realized nobody in this church really knows who I am, and that's kind of opposite of who I am. I'm very much a people person, so I decided to go on the welcome team and, you know, put myself out there. Hey, I'm Lori, you know, and that was really amazing too. People in my church then got to know me, and I got to chit chat. I'm kind of a chit chatter, and that was great. So that was really powerful. It was helpful, and it created community in our church. So I went through the whole Shine program, like I said. I became a lead teacher. I would learn new stories. It was so important for me to again, teach the next generation. What I didn't realize is I had this kid in my class, this was a few years ago, and his family came for a couple years, and then they left. Well, they had come back a couple years later, and he had this huge glow up, you know. He was like, I couldn't wait to see Miss Lori because, you know, I made an impact in him, is the story. So when I saw him, he's like, Miss Lori, and I'm like, hi, you know, unfortunately I forgot his name. He's like, it's me, Patrick. And I was like, oh my gosh, Patrick, that's crazy. And long story short is I made an impact in his life, and that was very rewarding to me. And that's kind of how God works. God puts you in these positions for a reason. And I'm trying to be brief because I know what Pastor Scott says about that. So I just want to say, community, church, Wellspring is so amazing. They're so supportive. And there's actually many verses in the Bible that tell you, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to serve. So Ephesians 6:7, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not men, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whether they are slaves or free. It goes on and on and on about serving. But I want you to know that if I would not have served in the church, I really feel like I would not have been so fast forward, so strong in my faith. So real quick, just to sum up. So then after 7 years, I decided to step out. My daughter had graduated out of the Shine program, and it's my desire to be here on stage, and I feel God is pleased with me, so he's allowed me to have this blessing up here. But then my family started coming to church, and I knew what an impact Shine had done for me when I first started. So it was asked of me or brought to me like, hey, our Shine program needs help. Do you want to go back in? And at first I was apprehensive, I thought, no, I don't, but then the Lord said to me, Lori, you're trying to disciple people outside of church. You're inviting people into your home to talk about God. It would be really beneficial for you to come back into the Shine program to learn these stories again. Reach out, show your daughter, hey, this is where we need to be. This is where God is calling us. So I just want to say, if you're thinking of it, if you're wondering where you need to go next, first pray about it. Try to hear God's voice. He'll tell you. But secondly, if you're unsure, if you're just a new believer, come to Shine. You're more than welcome to sit in on my group and just learn how it goes. It's literally an hour and a half once a month, and it's so beneficial for your life. How's that? Okay.
Thank you. What I like about Lori's story is so much has happened and so much has shaped her, and she's been able to disciple others, to encourage others, and to model example. Your story matters. Your example matters too. Where we serve in the church, what we do in our communities, what we do with our one lives that are given matters. The big idea today is that we are not just going to church. We are the church. Can you say that with me? We do not go to church. We are the church. We work together and grow together as a body. You don't have to say this with me if you don't want to. We work together and grow together as a body, also functions all together in its many parts. We're called to use our time, talents, and treasures in a way that is intentional and adventurous. You are invited to be on the bus at Wellspring Community Church as we seek God's glory. And I encourage you, as you're invited on the bus and as you get off throughout your week, go. Go and love your communities well, love your families well, love your friends well, love your workmates well. It's a beautiful opportunity, friends.